Rose Crazy Interviews. It's your boy Noah, and I'm here with Watts Rapper. Your favorite rapper's OG, Glasses Malone.
Hey,
How you living, bro?
cooling, man. Making it look easier than it is, for sure.
So, now your album Glass House, the prequel, is out now on all streaming platforms except for Spotify right now.
Yeah. Still, they'll probably fix it tomorrow. I just think real gangster rap, they kind of be tough on it. Sometimes they make it go through extra hurdles.
And can you talk to me about like the process putting this whole thing together?
Well, the project itself, I released it back in 2012. Right at that time, I was starting to figure out records, but I was already at the end of what I was working on. So I put it together the way it came. You know, That Good was on that project. And the last 7-8 years, I just been learning about records, hip hop, and marketing. So as artists, like when I came in the game, me, J-Rock, Nip, we came in the game like before the streaming era happened. So we have a responsibility to move over all the content from like the internet to streaming sites so people can enjoy it and get the full story of, you know, our journey. So bringing this project over became important, but not just bringing it over the way it was with my ignorance, you know, focusing on it and making sure it was what I wanted it to be then. So that's why I went with so many legends, you know, the dudes that I grew up listening to, because that was the idea for the project in the first place.
And overall, like, what made you like want to revisit like that kind of sound? Do you think you ever like steered away from it, or?
I never really embraced it, honestly. Like when I first came in the game, I felt like we were trying to figure out how to get going because we wasn't really getting love from Battle Cat or, like, I take that back. Battle Cat worked with us, but it was tough to get a beat from Warren G, DJ Quick, Daz, Dre. It was tough, you know what I mean? So we had to work with who wanted to work with us, let alone features from the legends. So I really never had access to it, you know, at the highest level. So now that I kind of understand exactly what it is, I know the right youngsters to go to or how to make it myself. So right at the same time when I could get beats from them now. Now I can get some beats from them, but it was tough back then. So I steered away from it for a long time. So it's dope to actually be a part of it and make it work.
And can you talk more about like it's like a idols turn to rivals type thing with like all these legends you grew up looking up to?
Yeah. I don't want to really say it a rival. Like I could never rival them. You know, they spot is solidified in the business. You know what I'm saying? It's not even like a thought. You know what I mean? What they represent. I could never really explain to you why that bond wasn't as strong as it should have been. You know, they always say this, and I say it about Dub C or CJ Mack or Dr. Dre or Warren G or you know, Above the Law, or we they children. Like my generation is they children, you know, that we were raised on that shit. So I never could really tell you how that ended up being a real rival situation. I never felt it was a rival, but I felt like we wasn't getting, you know, like the tutelage we needed to, you know, to go into the next level into this game. So it became a real dirty thing for us. But I appreciate everything they doing for the next generation. You know, the stuff they doing for YG, the stuff they doing for y'all. You know, the generation after us, I love how they do a good job. Like, I think they did a good job by Dot when it was all said and done. I just think they did a poor job by us.
And is that why you're so tapped in with, like, the newer generation?
Yeah. I wanted to make sure that I showed them love. Like, if you don't like the way somebody treating you, you know what I'm saying, you should make sure you treat the next generation better. So I always try to tap in on them. You know, same for DJ Head. Same for Salas and all the people that I deal with in my circle, Stretch, Pun. We all stay tapped in with the next generation and the following because, you know, we want to make sure we raise it right. Like, we want to make sure they know that they from the coast. And, you know, it's a lot of things here for them.
Yeah, definitely. And who is, like, some of your favorites out of this, like, new generation of West Coast music?
Draco. I love the stuff Draco was doing. Yeah. It's a kid from Inglewood right now.
Lil Deuce?
Lil Deuce. Outside is probably the hottest song in LA to me. Yeah. More records right now from people. You know what I mean? Fuck the over. Like, I don't think all the artists have figured out exactly their sounds. So they're still picking through music. Greedo was fucking killer. Like, he knew what his sound was.
Yeah.
But I like the records from different people. You know what I mean? I like pretty much anybody who got some good shit. But what comes to mind immediately is Lil Deuce Outside. That's like my favorite song right now. Still, like, and it's been my favorite song for about 9 months or something, however long it's been out. So it's tough to fuck with that song.
Yeah, for real. And the GMX, the GMX 6 in the Morning with Ty Dolla sign, Snoop Dogg, and of course Ice-T.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me about like the process making that record?
Well, really, for the G-Mix, we made that song the first time when Joe asked me to be a part of it. Ty and Joe asked me to be a part of it at a time where they was embracing me, because I kind of was in a weird space where I was confused about what I was going to do musically. And they was like, yo, come to the studio. So they had me come to the studio and rap on a couple songs on their project. And that was one of the songs that, like, you could have a song. And I always liked the song. I always thought Ty was just this unbelievable producer. Ty Dolla sign is another guy that I feel like we really need him to produce for other artists. Blast is doing his part, and he, working with Bino Mustard is doing a fantastic job. But the guys that have those sounds, especially Hit Boy, he's put in with some artists, but we need Ty to really. Ty's been working with Joe, but to get with some more guys and get it going. But long story short, when I first heard the idea, I always felt that'd be dope to have Ice-T on it. Tracking Ice-T down at a concert and getting Cuz to rap was different though. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think he tested me on some shit where it was like to see if I was the nigga that I was talking about, and I had to pass the test. It worked out. As far as Snoop is, I had a conversation with Snoop at an Akon video shoot roughly 10 years ago or 9 years ago or 8 years ago. And it was about the same conversation about, he's such a, I always say this, like, it's only 3 people that's probably more famous than Snoop Dogg, right? It's Jesus, Michael Jackson, and Mickey Mouse. And sometimes we don't see Snoop as this global icon the way he is. He probably is one of the top 5, top 10 most famous people in the world, you know what I mean, on the planet. So, but I did always feel like I always told him it was so important that he embraced everything that was coming forward. He didn't have to, you don't have to jump on every song, but DM from Snoop to say, like, man, I see you, it's like, man, it's the greatest thing in the world. Whether he never tell nobody else is, and I told him, I said in the trailer, and I was telling him, I'm like, bro, you gotta understand what you mean. And sometimes I think he knows it, but I don't think he really get it. I think he started to figure it out now. I could see him kind of feeling it, but I don't think he really understands what he means to all of us. You know what I mean? Everybody in the world, especially somebody who came up, from a gang, trying to get into hip hop and change their life. Like, the smallest things from him is the world. And I made sure I always told him that. And I think he does a great job of being an ambassador when it comes to West Coast hip hop, especially from Southern California. He does a fantastic job at this point. So getting him wasn't really the hard part. Once he knew Ice-T was on it, that was the first time connecting them on the song. Yeah. So that was special to connect the original of gangster rap as far as West Coast hip hop goes, and Snoop, pretty much, who is Jesus, you know what I mean? Like the savior of it. So that's just fire. And, came together like that. Ty heard it. He was tripping off Ice-T rapping. Everybody hears it and trips off Ice-T. Like, Ice-T is 60-something years old and still rap. And he sent me a song today, and I'm listening to him like rapping. I'm like, cause how are you still good at 60-something, bro? That's crazy. A lot of dudes don't be still good. His pen is sharp and he still sound really good. He was like, nah, I ain't putting it out. I just send it to all my players, my partners, to keep them inspired. I'm like, I'm really inspired every time I hear him. Like, it's amazing.
And you talk about like his age. It's like you mixed 4 generations of music in one song.
Man, and that was so dope. Like, I'm trying to get Vince Staples to do a verse on it. To really go 5 generations deep. You know what I mean? A generation even below Ty. I think he gonna do it, but it's so important to connect all of us. You know what I'm saying? Our whole culture. You know what I mean? Whether through racial barriers, through skaters and gangsters. My first interview was with what's that skate magazine? The biggest one still? What's the biggest one, bro?
Thrasher?
Thrasher is my first interview. It's my first media interview in Thrasher because that culture and our culture is connected. So, through all cultural barriers, whether it's skater or gangster, racial barriers, generations, I think it's important if we want to preserve as the West Coast and, try to make a play to get back on top. We have to bring everything together because the shit that, the South is doing, Atlanta and Memphis, is unbelievable. And it ain't going to be easy to even tangle with their hold on the game. Their hold is strong. Not to mention, shit, we got a fucking dark cloud half the time hanging over us. So I really focused on that, on this project, making sure I did my parts. Corrupt, Trade E, reached out to Q. I got Q on some stuff. Q is that's my homie, you feel me? So I be trying to bring it all together.
And you got ScHoolboy Q on the intro, Dear Hip Hop, which is like a letter from gangster rap.
Yeah.
Whose idea was that to like put that together?
So I came up with the idea, and I was talking to my manager. My manager still was like, he's a creative too. He's a writer as well. So he was like, "Oh, let me start writing it." So I was like, "Man, I don't care." Like he started writing it, and I was like, "Damn, it's kind of dope." So when he sent it to me, I took it, added some little twists and turns to it, and honestly, we wanted Q to read it before Q. Like we thought that would have been just crazy because that's some Ice Cube shit to do, and I think he was just busy, or maybe it ain't time. You know what I mean? But Q was for sure the only other person to me that sounded LA enough. Like ScHoolboy Q and Ice Cube sound the most like LA niggas you will ever. Like the way they sound, they talk, they're the stereotypical LA nigga in jargon and everything. So he sounds so fucking fresh, man. And he had enough heart. Like I thought he would be worried. Like, the song is so aggressive. That the concept is so aggressive and so thoughtful. He was like, "Yeah, I knocked this out." And I heard it. I was just in disbelief. And I took it to THX, and THX had him score it. It came out fire. So
it really set the tone for like the rest of the project.
Yeah, it made a lot of sense. I kind of still with that, still came through, and he made that shit happen. That shit was dope, though.
For sure. And like you said before, you got like a lot of West Coast legends on this album. Do you think West Coast hip hop like history is like forgotten?
I don't think we do a good job of preserving it. I think we do, my generation, your generation, I don't think we do a great job at preserving it. I think nobody does as great of a job as New York. New York does, East Coast hip hop does the best job it ever of making a big deal out of their shit.
They make sure it started there. Like,
oh my God. Or if it's an Illmatic documentary to the point where generations and generations is talking about Illmatic or Reasonable Doubt, they do a fantastic job of documenting culture and history. And I really want to make sure we do a much better job at it. I literally was talking still about this the other day about like, having the Gangster Chronicles and starting really to get more culturally involved, to tell more of our stories. Like, you think about what Warren G was able to do, being refused and not really supported by Death Row and all the people he helped, start Death Row. Like, he's one of the most important people, Warren G. Like, this is Dr. Dre's brother, so he brings Snoop to Dre. You know what I mean? And not to mention he's a part of the samples and producing and finding the right ideas. And when it's his turn, it's whatever reason, he's not getting the same support. And then, like, he makes a record for, Mr. Grimm and Endo Smoke, and it gets him a deal across the country, right, at Def Jam, and he still manages to make a career for himself. That's an amazing story. Yeah. And I mean, I don't want to make it, because Death Row did push Regulate as well. That was off the Above the Rim soundtrack, but he made it, with all his peers somewhere else, and he was able to step out and just, that's a dope ass story. It's like Rudy and shit in football. Warren G got like the greatest comeback story ever.
Definitely. And speaking on the history, like, what's your top 5 West Coast albums of all time?
All right, so this is tricky, right? Because I have something that is the top 5, and then I have what I feel, if you from LA, is the top 5. So the top 5 probably is gonna be Doggy Style #1, 2000 and one number 2. All Eyes on Me, number 3. A lot of people say Death Certificate, but I don't think so. I think The Predator is number 4. And Born a Mac and In a Major Way, somewhere right there. That's kind of the best 5, you know. That's probably the greatest 5 albums from the West. But the top 5 albums from the West Coast, that's like L.A., The Shadiest One by Dub C is number 1. Number 2 is Street Gospel by Sugar Free. Number 3 is Quick is the Name. Number 4 is YG, My Crazy Life. Let me think about that. Because it's a Keep the Sneak album that I'm forgetting. That was really, 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 really important in that whole grand scheme of things, and I can't think of the name of it. Like, I remember when the hyphy movement, like, you got to score the albums by the movements. Yeah. Like, what was the most important album in the hyphy movie? Hyphy movement. Most people would probably think it's 40 record, My Get a Report Card, but I think that's more the greatest and the most celebrated as far as mainstream. But it was Keek who was Keek is the motherfucking
Godfather.
He's the reason. He's the real fuel to it. So it's a Keek record I think I'm forgetting.
And I'm surprised you didn't say like any Kendrick Lamar records.
So Dot is in a weird situation where it's gonna sound fucked up, but I consider his albums much bigger. Yeah. So when we say the West Coast, like I'm thinking of like a cultural connection, but I don't know. I just don't look at Dot's. Well, it's tough because it went from the greatest to the top 5. I think. I mean, it should be there. I mean,
which one though?
See, that's the thing. I think the generation that he raised, right, is gonna think of the first one, Good Kid. Oh, yeah. I think his best album is Damn. So me and all Kendrick Lamar fans gonna beef off that right off the rip, and then half of them is gonna be talking about the Pimp. So I don't know. I think Dot hasn't made his greatest album. That's another thing too. I think we still gonna get his greatest album. So, but I love that everybody. Some people think it's the greatest West Coast album ever, and I wouldn't argue. My nigga, man, it's the greatest thing in the world to watch somebody you seen come in the game and really become the guy.
Well, can you talk more about like that relationship? Like, because I know you're there really early on.
Yeah. I mean, you always knew he would be something special. Yeah. You know, all of them. J-Rock was great the first day. He was so young. Dot was so young. I remember when Q first came to TDE, and he was a part of GED with Tiger and Gator. Right? And then Soul is really the heart and soul of what all they all do. Dot is one of my best friends, you know, rest his soul. That's his first cousin. He's just a little bright dude. He's a real student. You know, his vibes, like some people say Tupac. I really feel like that was more Nipsey. Nipsey was more of the Pac vibe, where I think he read so much stuff and understood how to direct the conversation. Dot is like Michael Jackson. He's like the greatest student. Michael Jackson is like the greatest student in music history, probably, as far as like the talent goes. He knew so much, and the people he surrounded himself knew the same, Quincy Jones. And I think Dot is the same way. Dot is like this fantastic student of the game. Like he like if it's going down, like he knows it. He knows about Lil Deuce outside. Like he's not gonna miss shit. You can ask him about a song, like I'll send him gangbang songs, bro. It'd be like a nigga from Hoover just rapping. He like, I saw that. I'm like, nigga, why are you looking at niggas from Hoover's song? Like he probably know who Tiny Jap is. Like he for sure probably got 2 or 3 favorite songs from Tiny Jap. He'll know, you know, Munchie B's song. You know, he'll know all this shit. So that's why can't nobody really fuck with him. You know, especially in today's time.
And do you think people like ever like suspect that he knows?
No. I think the average person thinks it's like, even with Michael Jackson, they think it's like this natural thing where they're just better than everybody. It's like, nah, the best people are well schooled. Yeah. Dot is an unbelievable student. Unbelievable. And nobody learns as well as him. And nobody is as open to information as he is. He's like, that's where he kills at. Like he can, like, you know, he can master styles. He's not no fucking, he's for real. He's the fucking real deal. It ain't no easing up for nobody. Like, you're gonna get this work with him. Like, he's not gonna fuck around with nobody. So, and I think the elite in the game, whether it's Drake or Cole, they all know that. Yeah. They all know he's a real animal. Yeah. So
and steering it back to like you, are you gonna shoot any like visuals for songs in this album?
Yeah, I'm gonna do a couple. My goal is to do a lot of videos to older songs. That's something we want to be more popular for, you know, with Division Movie Company. We want to be able to, even for other artists, we want to go back and shoot stuff off the Shadiest One, stuff off Street Gospel. So many dope stories to tell. So yeah, I'm gonna do a couple. I got 2 in the can already. So
can you say for which tracks?
So Dear Hip Hop is like, it's a crazy idea, and people gonna cuss me out, but it's like fire. Yeah. I got a video for Super Sport with Too Short. I really want to do a video for Thug by myself because I really feel like that's the most important record on that album, on that project rather. People need to really see that. I just got to get the right idea. I still don't have it. Yeah.
And overall, what do you want the audience to like take away from listening to Glass House?
I just wanted to make you feel a way you used to feel. Like, I think we're in a space to where we're not as proud as we used to be from the West. I think we look into a lot of people from different places for influence and inspiration when you don't got to look that way right now. Just look behind you. Look at what happened already. And none of that shit you looking at to the side, no matter where you look, it could fuck with none of that shit that happened. You could look at all of the, you know, the younger upper echelon artists from Atlanta right now. You could put all them motherfuckers together and they not Snoop Dogg. Yeah. You can stack them all together, you feel me, like Jenga, you feel me? They not Dog. Yeah. You stack them all together, they not Pop. You stack them all together, they not Q. You stack them all together, they not Dre. You know what I mean? Like, you stack them all together, maybe they could be Short, possibly. Maybe. Yeah. So, I think greatness, you know, is in history. I mean, it's looking behind you, tell you what's ahead of you.
Well, I appreciate you for coming down here, chopping
up. It's all love, man. Feel me? Shout out to the Rosecrans boys.
Yes, sir. Glass House, the prequel, is out now on all streaming platforms. Go get there.
Yep.